Welcome, Andrea, to Metallarium Pages. Again, it's a pleasure to talk with you about for the second time because we spoke early for the re-edition of the record process of Comilis in 2022, and now we're speaking about the Sleepless Empire, the new album from Lacuna Coil. So let's start with by asking. So how are you? How are you doing today? How is the band during the last couple years?
I'm good. I mean, I'm just sitting at home doing promo because obviously the new record is coming out. So it's been a few days very full of promotional stuff, and also we're working on a new video, and so there's a lot of a lot of meat to cook, so to speak, and and we're all good. I mean, everybody's fine. Everybody is busy preparing also for the tour. There's a lot of technical stuff that we have to do even behind the curtains, to get ready and to make everything work fine. And yeah, we're also very excited to talk about the new songs and see the reaction of the videos we just put out. And it's a good times, when you have a new record. It's always a lot of stuff to boiling, a lot of people and stuff to meet and to talk about.
Okay. Okay. Nice. Nice. That is right. So, sorry. And talking about from this new album, when do you start writing songs for this new album? And all the songs new, or do you rescue any composition that led were out for the previous albums? Or perhaps when you record the Comelas, you rescued some riffs from there.
No, I think 99% is new. Sometimes we keep some riffs of some parts, but it's very hard to use it again because when we go back and listen to it, it always sounds a little bit old and already heard many times. So we kind of tend to leave it, maybe use it as a bonus track or something like that, but not really for the new record because we always want to have something fresh for ourselves and for the people. So usually it's all new, and but this time it took a long time actually to write and compose all the record, because we were coming from the 2 years of pandemic and then getting back in the routine of touring and working on Comalize Success. So it's been a little bit of time and concentration in order to find the right inspiration, the right way to go. And but in the end we made it, so we're really happy about it. But it took a little bit of time for sure.
Oh, okay, okay. Okay. So, man, I saw that always Comail is working a new album since the beginning, since you formed the band in 1997. So, with the actual name, because the band started in 1994 with a different name. But since you create the band, you started releasing new albums since 1999, 2021, etc., etc. And now you have more than 10 albums in your career. So, I saw that. So, what motivates you or inspires you to keep such a consistent release schedule, especially in an era where people tend to listen to album less and there's so many other releases competing for attention?
Yeah, I mean the world has changed. Obviously when we started, it was still the old world with magazines, radios, TV shows like MTV, and all the normal way of promoting a record, promoting a band. Nowadays, the offering is way too much, like the too many bands, too many records coming out. And but we're lucky that we kind of built our name in the different times, when people still pay attention, when there was a label kind of selecting what could be put out and what couldn't be put out. And so we had the chance to develop our career and do record after record, stable growth until Comalize, that then exploded and became a much bigger record. So I think we've seen it all, and then we're still very motivated to release an album because we still love what we do, and we still, as I say, maybe we take some time before we actually complete the record because we want to be sure we have something to say, that we want to be sure that the record that come out in 2025 is going to have some sort of contemporary feeling. We don't want it to sound like the same old record. Obviously, we do have a style that we've been building in the years, so we're not going to change completely the style of the band, but there's going to be some new elements here and there, some new arrangements, some new directions for everything, and it's important to keep it fresh for ourselves and for the people. So we're only going to release a record if we feel there is something different on it and there is a reason to talk about something, you know.
Okay, okay. And one thing that you said in a captured my attention in your last words is that you spoke about now, well, at that time, or talking about the 80s, 90s, or the beginnings of 2000s, the labels select which album will be released under them. Nuclear Blast, Century Media, Listenable, Season of Mist, Osmose, etc., and the list continue. But now, with this situation, now I can see that the labels are releasing just well-known bands to sell records. One, and second, mostly of these new bands are releasing their albums, their EPs, their songs independently with YouTube or the platforms in general. So in this case, for you, how is important to have a label when you have a band now? With all your experience, how important is to be or to have a band when you have a well unknown band or well-known band? And what's your opinion about now? All bands are releasing their records independently.
I think you need a label nowadays only if you want to work at a certain level. You know, if you want to promote your band worldwide, enter certain circuit, you need a label because you need a lot of people that works for you in the promotional department, in the talking to all the different platforms, all the YouTube, the Spotify, the Amazon Music, the Apple Music, in Europe, in America, in Asia, in Australia, in South America. So you need a team that work that at this level to make the band known everywhere, you know. And so if you have a budget, you can also hire your own people and do it yourself, but you need to have that kind of budget that not everybody has, you know. So if you are a more of a underground band, then you don't need a label probably nowadays, because to put your music on the media, on you don't need to strictly have a label, you know. You can also print your own CDs or your own vinyls, put your songs on Spotify, hire somebody for the marketing. But it's if it's a small underground thing, that's fine, you know. But if you want to work on a higher level, you really need a label or a team of work. You know, the budget to hire a team of work that is up to the name of the band, you know.
Okay. 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 Now, and with this topic talking about a thousand of releases, as you can see, well, no thousand, long 100 releases per weekend. There's no let get attention. The span attention of the people just releasing just when singles or platforms. And I spoke with a lot of musicians, well known or unknown musicians. For some musicians, thinks that is overwhelming releases per weekend, 10, 20, or 30 releases per weekend, is because it's not like the 90s or 80s or beginnings of 2000 when you have just 30 releases per month. Now we have more than 300 or 400 per month. That's amazing. So I know some people say that is good for the scene to have releasing a lot of albums per weekend, and other people say, and especially the well-known metal musicians said that it's not good for the scene because you have so much to hear and too much to hear and this overpopulated or saturating the scene in general. So for your point of view, what is your point of view about this topic?
I think it's a bit confusing for the listeners, you know, because especially if you are a young listener that is looking for the band you might like, it can be confusing because their offering is very wide and you don't know where to go. But for in general, I think the quality of the music has not improved. I think if 10 years ago there were maybe 50 new bands a year that were going to be very interesting, nowadays is the same. You know, even if you have the double of the releases or the triple of the releases, there's still this 50 bands that's gonna make it's gonna be very interesting, you know. How many new Iron Maiden, new System of a Down, new Korn have you heard on the last year? Maybe one or two bands that couldn't become that kind of bands, you know. So the quantity, it doesn't mean the quality, you know. I think the quality is kind of the same. It's just that before a lot of those bands were not considered by the label because they made a filter, so they're not gonna release those bands that sounds too much like the other bands that are already around, you know. Very often I hear a lot of bands that are good, they play well, they have a good recording, They have a good image, the good lineup, good video maybe, but the song sounds just like the other bands. It's very, very similar to the other bands. There's very few bands I hear every year that are original. They have their own personality, their own style, very, very few, and always less and less. The more we go ahead, the more I hear copycats and nothing really interesting. Very few. There's always this 10, 20 bands every year that I say, wow, these are new bands I discover, and I keep following them because I like them. But the quality has not improved, I think. It's just the quality of the recording, the quality of the way they present the product, but the artistry behind it is not really there. And I think this is a problem because bands are not allowed to develop their style anymore because everybody have one record and put it out immediately with videos for every song, with you know and then it's not the way it works. To find your own personal sound, you need to make at least 2 3 records where you make your own mistake, and you sound like your favorite bands. Second, you try to be a little bit more personal, and maybe on the third record you actually develop something that it starts to be more unique. And so nowadays there's not enough time for bands to develop that style. So there's very few that actually are really interesting, I think. But there's a lot that are good, that you listen to them and you say, wow, that's good. They have a great song. But then you forget about it because it's really not personal.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. And you get me one point to think, because a few months ago we spoke about the standards in we always doing a podcast internally with our staff from Metallarium, and we spoke about the standardization of the sound standardization. As you can see, you mentioned it. Now all bands sounds great, sound amazing, sound perfect. But when you hear, I remember when I was in the 90s and select the first albums from Cannibal Corpse and black metal, thrash metal, I know, and in the 80s from thrash metal, heavy metal, you have the option to hear 10 records, but not all 10 records sounds great. Just sound 4 sounds great, amazing. The rest are bad. And yeah, I know that's completely normal because someone's like it, someone does not like it. But now all albums, as you said, sounds perfect, no any kind of error in the record, in the recording process, in the studio. And in some way, when you hear this kind of bands or these kind of records, you feel that the organic way to record an album lost the transition to record for the digital era, for etc. topics. But that's normal now. So, but now, what is your point of view about now this concept of the standardization of the sound in all the records? Because there's no bad musicians, there's no bad records, there's no bad cover arts, there's no nothing. Now you can listen thousands of bands and all sounds perfect.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's certain sounds that are a bit more trendy. So some bands that want to play more contemporary style of metal, they tend to use very similar, especially because a lot of bands they use plugins, and plugins they're at the end of the day they kind of go all in the same way. So very little bands do some research on the sound to sounds very different than anybody else. And personally, we have choose to base our sound a little bit more back in the 90s, if you want, even if we add some elements in the arrangement that are more contemporary. But the sound wise, we always look at records like I don't know, Chaos AD, or no, the Fear Factory, Machine Head, that era of metal. And we try, when we do the heavy parts, we try to work in that direction. Obviously, we bring it to a more contemporary because we also use technology, and so obviously we also use sounds that are more modern. But we tend to start from that hardcore metal vibe, especially for the heavy parts, because that's where we grow up with that style. And when we look for a snare sound or a guitar sound, we're more interested in trying to find that direction than the modern metalcore kind of sound. So which is a little less interesting for us because everybody sounds very, we say plastic because it's very little amp, a lot of digital plugins. And then that for us is not what we like personally. Although for one band could be the ideal sound, but then not everybody else has to use the same sound just because Bring Me the Horizon has been successful. That you do not everybody has to copy their sounds, you know. That I don't think
Mm,
it's the good way to reach the same success, you know.
mm,
And so obviously it's a little bit of a problem because you listen to a lot of stuff and it's very similar
mm,
in the EQ, in the way they use very often they program the drums. They don't even play the drums anymore just
mm,
because it's easier to mix it, especially with those plastic sounds, let's say,
mm,
or modern sounds. So we decided to keep working on a certain way because we feel it's more important that you have your own personality than you sound just like everybody else. You know, I think it should be pretty obvious, but it's not. But it's the same for TV series. Everything is it's kind of going in the same flat direction. You know, if you see the Marvel movies, the all those things that go all the same, keep repeating the same formula with the same aesthetics, and very few times you see something that you say, wow, this is look different, you know, look like something else, you know. And I think after a while people get used to the same formula and they don't find it exciting anymore.
Okay, well, okay, that is true. That is true. And other thing that captured my attention in your works about the plugins, about now how the technology is involved in all recording process. Even as you can see now, there's a lot of controversial things when you talk about the AI and when you create an artwork. So some people, for me it's normal. A band wants to use an AI because some artists don't represent that what the musician wants in their cover art from their albums. And that's, I don't know why the people get mad when you assume specific band when they try to use an AI cover art like DSI, like Kerry King, like Pestilence. The people get mad. No, we don't like the cover art, but it's not the decision of the fan. It's the decision of the band because just I we spoke about this. Just the artist behind the cover art is not a member of the band. It's just an artist that you hire or that you want to do the cover art of your art or your music. That's completely is far away from the band. It's just a different member. It's not a member of the band. But the people get mad for this topic, and also, but the people doesn't know about this kind of topics about the plugins or about this topic that is right now. As you can see, when you do some live shows with a band, mostly of new bands are trying. There's no playing with amps. There's all loud plugins. There are no samples or just with laptops, and there's no more amps in live studios and live presentation for a lot of bands, especially big bands. With you, I know that you know this kind of these kind of things because you have a lot of equipment to work with there. So now, what's your point of view about now the AI is trying to get mad the people because not for the bands normally, but the more annoying thing is just for the fan, not for you.
I think that in general, AI is a technology, and technology is not good or bad. You know, technology depends how you use it. You know, and I think AI is supposed to be an extra help to your work. You know, you have to to work a job, and you can use AI to help you make it better, easier, faster, and complement your work. You know. So I think it's good when you use technology in that way to help you to make your life easier, but I don't think it's cool to use it because you're too lazy or you want to save money and so you just go with AI because it's cheaper than an artist or because it's faster than an artist. You know, I think you should use it to complement an artist. And if you don't have to use an external artist. I personally prefer to use an external artist for artwork, and that's what we've done on Sleepless Empire because I like to see the perspective of a different person on our topics, on our music, on our sound. I want to see what we communicate to him and what he comes back with. Obviously, I'm gonna try to work with artists that I like their style and the way that they've done work before. But I like to see his perspective on And same when you do a video clip. I like to see an idea from the director, because unless I am a director, then it's a different case. But if I'm not a director, I like to see what a director would come up with my theme of the song, with my title, with my words. And that's also creative, because you exchange creativity with other people, and that's the way it works. And that's when you have the best result, I think, when you have different people involved. Unless you have your own vision and you're able to do everything on your own, then that's okay, of course, as well. So I'm not against people that use AI, obviously. I think AI is a technology, but I'm against it when it's used in a cheap way. It's used just because I don't have any idea, so I let the AI do it, or I don't want to pay somebody, so I let the AI use it. I think that's not creative, not artistic. And I think the good thing about an artist is the mistakes that he makes. When we write a part and when I'm writing or I'm singing and I make a mistake and it sounds good because it's that weird note that nobody expected, and then I develop it and it becomes something very original, is because we're human and human makes mistakes. And that's also part of the creative process, to make mistakes, to make something that goes out of the ordinary, that goes out of what you plan to do. So that the AI can't do. So the AI is a tool and has to be used as a tool, not as a substitute for a person, I think. But that's me, that's my opinion. And I'm not gonna go to people that use it to say you shouldn't use it. I'm not gonna go. Everybody is free for me to do what they want. Personally, I prefer to work with real people and use AI also as a technology, not as a substitute.
Mm. Okay, okay, okay. Returning, okay. We'll returning more, yeah, to this new album. So every album for each artist or for each band is special, in different ways. Some people think that the last work or the last word or the last work is the best work today. So if this situation is with you, so what makes to you this special, this new album for you? Is the best word today, or will you still create perhaps a second Comails? Who knows?
No, I don't think it's always weird to say it's your best work, because I think every work we've done was the best for the moment when we release it, obviously. So Comalize was perfect for the early 2000s when we made it. And then the other records that have been successful are also important because they've been the best we could do, the best version of Lacuna Coil for that moment when we release it. And so I think this is a perfect album for what we do now, what we do in 2025. But obviously it would be weird to release this album in 24, in 22, sorry, or in 2002. So I think what makes a record is not special for an artist. I think every record is special, but once you've done it, you've done it. You don't think about it all the time. You don't think, oh, it's the best record of my life. You don't think in that terms. I think people makes it special. What this record will communicate to people will make something special. Like
Mhm.
Comalize, when we came out and started to explode, and Heaven's Alive starts to become a great song for everybody, then people made it Comalize the big successful record, not us. We've wrote Comalize with the same passion as we wrote Karma Code or the Unleashed Memories or Delirium. For us, it's our babies and we make it. And once we finish it, it's done. We already move forward to the next step. Now we're gonna play the songs live, we're gonna tour, we're gonna promote the record. But in terms of creativity, it's done. It's out there for the people to grab, and they can grab it and make it, listen to it a million times or listening to it 5 times, make it a great record or make it a normal record, whatever. But it's not up to us anymore. It's there and it's out of us. We can only go around and play it and make interviews and promote it the way we can, but that's up to the people to make it a success or to make it more special than the another record.
Mm. Okay, okay. So now we're close to this interview, Andrea, and also, what kind of plans do you have for this new album? I saw that you will play here, you will do a tour here in Latin America in the next coming months, and you will do more things for this. So, what kind of plans do you have for this new album, Lacuna Coil, or perhaps you're already working a new album? Who knows?
No, not yet. But one thing, obviously, we're gonna promote the record first, the touring, and doing all the press and all that stuff that needs to be done. But we don't want to stop. I think maybe after the big tour we're gonna have in South America and North America, in the summer, maybe we can still work. We have a couple of projects that we left open as Lacuna Coil, music-wise. And so we're gonna probably work on those as well. So it's not gonna be a long time before we release some more music, but not a full record, probably just a few projects here and there. But we don't want to leave it too long before we work again on some more music. But now, obviously, we need to prepare that for the tour, and I'm doing all the interviews. We're gonna film a new video next weekend for another of the song of Sleepless Empire. So now the focus is obviously on launching the album and start the touring cycle. But we're gonna have some more surprises coming up after a little bit of the release.
Okay, okay. So now talking about other kind of topics and related with the related one I saw that well, alternative way or the alternative style. I saw that during the last couple years, 5 years, mostly all countries in Europe are leaned down to this style alternative, especially Germany, Finland, and Sweden are releasing albums with alternative. And now it's obviously that I ask you this because you are one of the first. You are one of the first steps there since the beginnings of 2000 that you involved with these alternative sounds at that moment. But now there's a lot of new bands releasing this now, and for a lot for people in Europe, it's very unknown this kind of topics because Europe in some ways are more classic stuff if we relate with the metal stuff. But when you hear that new bands are playing alternative metal with a lot of mixtures there, like Architects, for example, this alternative but metalcore, progressive, and the list continue on. And also, I saw that in also Baby Metal plays has alternative elements in older bands from Japan, also alternative elements. So now, how was your perspective changed when you present when you was one of I think you no you were the first band that play alternative metal in whole Europe at that moment, and now there's a thousand of bands playing alternative metal when you with your influence also.
Yeah, I mean, it's great because we have done something that people liked, that people has been recognizing and some new directions for metal. We started more from the gothic metal genre because our label Central Media was the home of a lot of the bands of that style, like Moonspell or Samael or The Gathering, Tiamat, a lot of those bands, and that's where we started. We started from there, and then incorporating different elements along the way in different releases. So our path has been a growth that happened record after record. We didn't maybe started in the alternative metal, but we kind of developed into some different kind of metal. I think they call it alternative metal just because you can describe it. It's easier to say alternative metal is very open, very vague. It can be a little bit of metalcore, but it can be a little bit of rock as well. It can be, it's a very open term, it's not very specific. But I think in Europe there will always be a balance between what's more classical, what's more traditional heavy metal or power metal, speed metal, and these more also the operatic, more symphonic metal is very big as well. And this new wave of bands that are more alternative, like Ginger, for example, comes to my mind, and they even went another way. They went even more prog than us, more extreme, technically extreme than us. And I mean, it's great. I mean, it's great that we have inspired some bands. And when we hear bands that are saying, "Oh, I grew up with your music," it's great, because it means we've done something meaningful for the people at the time when we released the record. So it's always a great compliment for us, And sometimes we have even big bands that come to us and say, I grew up with your music, like I remember once we toured with the American band Hailstorm with Lizzie Hale, and the drummer, he said that he learned to play, he was practicing playing double bass by playing our song To Live Is To Hide from Unleashed Memories. So it was very unexpected, and it was great to hear that such a great band has been also being influenced by us somehow, you know. So it's always great. I mean, it means our work has been meaningful, and we always work to develop our style. So we never settle and repeat the same formula over and over. Obviously, we do have a style that it's our style, but we try to make it a little bit fresh every release.
Hmm. Okay, yep, that is true. And the last question for this interview. One thing that you said at that moment when you released your first albums or Comails, a lot of people related with the gothic scene. And
Mhm.
just for you have a female voice there with mixing with a Rush or other things or the of male voices. But for me, that well, I like the gothic. I love the gothic scene since the 80s because I hear Fields of Nihilin, Sister of Mercy, the first bands. And when you try to relate your music, when you try to see what's going on or what happened at that moment when all people think that when you put a female fronted, automatically you play gothic metal. And that's why Nightwish, that's why Epica, Lacuna Coil, Within Temptation, all these bands at that since the end of the 90s, at the mid of 2000s, I remember that a lot of labels and a lot of people say that is gothic metal. Even there is no any kind of reminiscence from the first gothic metal era from like Moonspell, like Type of Negative, or more bands there, or also the first wave of the rock gothic, like Sister of Mercy and Fields of Nihilin. So now, what's your point of view about now that the gothic metal now has more more label. It's good label right now that there's all these kind of band that not when you have a female fronted, it's not supposed to be a gothic metal. You can do thrash metal, gold metal, any metal that you play. But at that moment, the label of gothic metal it was wrong for me. And what's your opinion about that?
Yeah, I think we belong to the Gothic metal, but mostly for the first couple of records, maybe until Comalize, which is the last one to me that can kind of resemble some Gothic atmospheres. But to me, Gothic metal was like Paradise Lost, Typo Negative, Anathema,
Mhm,
those bands, you know, maybe My Dying Bride, those bands were kind of Gothic. You can call it Gothic Moonspell, obviously gothic metal, but not Nightwish, not Within Temptation, not Epica. I think they were always more of a symphonic metal, if you want to call it so, with female voice, whatever you want to say, but not surely gothic. I also grew up with gothic music. I still love gothic music. I still listen to a lot of gothic bands. And but obviously, I think gothic is more of a generic term, you know. You can, to me, even Korn can be a gothic band. You know, certain songs of Korn with certain atmosphere, they definitely draw from gothic music. And Korn is a big, Jonathan Davis is a huge fan of The Cure and a lot of other bands. So I know that it's not, obviously, I wouldn't call Korn a gothic band, but to
mhm,
me, they do have gothic atmospheres and gothic influences in the music, just much as we have, and we still have. If you listen to our song Gravity that we just released, I
mhm,
think it has definitely a gothic mood, not only in the video but also in the arrangements, you know.
mhm,
So there is gothic is not the pure gothic or the gothic rock that was in the 90s or in the 80s. Obviously, it's an evolution of that incorporates also a lot of other elements
mhm,
from metal, from rock, from different sides. And but I think our music, for example, I think there's always three elements, and one element is the heaviness, is the metal, the rock and the dark, you know, the dark atmosphere of certain parts or the lyrics or the image. You know, there's always these three elements, and some records has been developing more towards the metal, some more towards the gothic, some more towards the rock. So it depends what record you take, you know. So gothic is it has changed the way gothic music has gone. You know, it's more out of the cliche now of the low voice and the clean guitars. You know, it's been developing in something else. But I think Cola's gothic metal today maybe is a bit too close. You know, maybe alternative makes more sense because it's just more generic.
mhm. Oh, okay, okay. Well, Andrea, we come to the sad moments of this interview. I hope you enjoyed this one like me. It was a pleasure to have you today. Really, it was a pleasure to have you and speak for the second time with you. This new album is a great one. Congratulations on it. I hope you enjoyed this interview like me. And perhaps do you want to add something to your Latin American fans that expect to your turn in the next couple of months here, and all obviously Metallarium followers?
Yeah, I mean, we are obviously really happy to come back to Latin America very soon and starts actually the cycle of the new album in Latin America instead of the usual Europe or United States. So it's great to be there and get all the energy. It's always a great party when we come to South America and people love the music so much and we love the way they are because maybe we are also Latin people, so we have a strong connection. So vamos a verlo todos al concierto de Lacuna Coil. Un beso y están muy pronto.